This is Your Frontier Opening Bell coming to you from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, Monday, the 27th of January. Of course, the market for Friday, looking back, was all in the green, including the start of the weekend. Of the week for Cairo market. On Sunday, the EGX 30 up by 12 basis points. The markets were a little bit mixed today. Monday to start the week, the Nigerian market finished again Monday on a very stronger note, just as we saw on Friday. But just let's bring you up to speed where we are right now. Of course, is the Mission 300 African Heads of State Energy Summit here in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. 25 African heads of state are meeting here tomorrow, Tuesday, to sign the Declaration of Dar es Salaam and to put pen to paper for that collaboration and partnership to ensure 300 million Africans are onboarded to electrification by the year 2030. That's the ambition of the AfDB, the African Development Bank, and the World Bank Group. And that's what we spent the first day listening to a series of plenaries and comments and other sessions that have focused on how to ensure that Africa gets more of its people out of energy poverty. So we've seen a number of conversations today, but let me just tell you that this is going to be a very game changer event. The president of the World Bank was here, as well as the president of the AfDB, development partners, including International Finance Corporation, the Rockefeller Foundation. Today announced $64 million investment to support the Mission 300 program. The OPED Fund for Development also pledged $1 billion to support Africa to ensure clean cooking energy for women across the continent, to support youth, and also the industrialization of the continent. But just to get us to start, let's listen to the president of the AfDB, Dr. Akumi Adesina, as he spoke today on the first plenary with Zain Asha of CNN, what he has to say about the project initiative, which was onboarded in May last year. Take a listen.
You know, this is a continent that actually loses 3 to 4% of its GDP every year because of lack of electricity. This is a place where we have 571 million Africans without access to electricity. Talk less of whether it is reliable and affordable and accessible electricity, as Ajay was mentioning. This is not a talking summit. At the end of the day, it's not what we say. We can do megawatts of talk all we want. It's going to be the megawatts of power that we deliver that actually matters. So it's an action-driven summit, and I want to thank you, all that are here today, for joining us in this to make sure that we can have Africa develop with pride, because it cannot develop in the dark. And we are determined it's time for Africa to solve this particular issue. Together, we can do exactly that.
Well, that's Dr. Akumi Adesina, the head of the AfDB. But also speaking on that particular panel was the president of the World Bank, Ajay Banga. It was back last year that the World Bank signed on this deal, and it's been talked about by the president of both the AfDB and the World Bank over the past nearly 1 year. And now this has come to fruition after a year of hard work. And the Ajay Banga says he believes that more can be delivered for Africa, but there's a need for partnership. And that's part of his presentation at that fireside chat. Take a listen to him as well.
The objective of this conference is to bring together the work of the past few months, where 12 countries have created an energy compact. And what does that mean? That means everything ranging from trying to understand, first of all, what's required to get access to electricity. 300 million out of 600 billion people is what we want to reach. That's not a small number. It's a hard goal. It's an achievable goal. It's going to take much work. And in the past, the biggest challenge has been the absence of all hands coming together to play.
Now, the continent will have to do a lot more as you look at 12 African states that are looking to outline what you call their energy compact agenda at the summit. Today, Nigeria unveiled its own energy compact agenda, as well as a few other countries. So we're going to see about more of them tomorrow, 13 of them in the first phase, according to the agenda set by the Mission 300. That was also something that we captured. But one of the big deals that we saw today, just as we begin to wrap up The first day of the summit was the International Finance Corporation signing with the Nigerian Minister of Finance and 5 private companies to support additional 500 mini-grids operations in Nigeria. Of course, you have companies such as Husk Power doing huge investments in mini-grids in Nigeria. Now, the International Finance Corporation, the private sector lending arm of the World Bank, is putting some millions of dollars on the table under the Rural Electrification Agency of Nigeria to onboard more mini-grid to ease Nigeria's electricity crunch over the next few years. That's also part of what we saw today. Let's bring you a bit of that from the minister's presentation, Nigeria's Finance Minister, Wale Edun, that is.
And I pay tribute. I think I'll take this opportunity to pay tribute to the President of the World Bank, Mr. J. Banga, and the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, because really it is their vision, it is their drive, it is their determination that has brought us on, galvanized us on this all-important journey to bring dignity, to bring development, to bring light and humanity to Africans who right now are literally in the dark. I think no matter what else they've achieved, and they have achieved a lot together as well as individually, this will be the abiding legacy.
So we've got a whole lot today, as you saw, the African Energy Summit. Let's see tomorrow, Tuesday, of course, the second and the final day. That declaration will be very, very key for African heads of state. It's going to resonate more than about 2 dozens of African heads of state coming together for the first time ever to sign a declaration on energy access to about 300 million of their people, and reduce that 600 million figure that's currently the estimate for Africans without energy access. So that is something we're going to see tomorrow. But let's move out of the summit here in Tanzania and show you a few more headlines across the African continent. That's the big story from East and Central Africa, by the way, on the business and economic side. If you discount, well, we cannot discount, but it's quite the story out of Rwanda and DRC, the rebels taking over the critical city of Goma. That's also in the news on the political side. The whole crisis just taking another turn, as it were. But let's move on to see what else do we have on the continent. Look at West Africa. Some of the biggest story, of course, about Nigeria needing double economic growth within the next 2 or 3 years. That's according to the finance minister. The hope is rising that Nigeria seems to be getting out of the crunching effect of 2023 reforms that was announced by President Tinubu when he took office on removal of fuel subsidy and liberalization of the exchange rate. Folks are now optimistic that the heat is out and Nigeria can now start rebuilding. So outlook on GDP is going higher than earlier forecasts. Some forecasts as high as 6.2%. Inflation is expected to decline to about 23-24% this year from around 30%. North of that currently, according to the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, you have tax reforms as well. You have Cote d'Ivoire becoming a major West Africa's engine of growth and stability in West Africa, according to the IMF. Just a few hours ago here in Dar es Salam at the African Energy Heads of State Summit, Cote d'Ivoire also did a press briefing regarding its own energy compact agenda for the biggest French company in West Africa. You're going to hear more of that in the next few days as well. That's the reporting from here in Dar es Salaam. They have the Air Sierra Leone saying it's going to start connecting Lagos route with its E-15 aircraft, while Senegal and Italian firm says they've launched $140 million agriculture project. You need energy also to get energy, food sustainability and food agro-processing done on the continent, just as the AfDB is also doing multi-billion dollars of that, leveraging private sector investment into about $500 or $80 million being put on the table. Let's get on to the Southern Africa. Now, you've got Ramogopa, South Africa's Minister of Electricity, speaking earlier today here in Dar es Salaam as well on what South Africa has been able to achieve to get out of the problem of the utility. That was ESCOM. Again, that reminds me, the president of the AfDB says utilities in Africa need to be more transparent, they need to be more independent so that they can get out of state-owned enterprises status and the billions and billions of dollars that are pumped into them by various governments, sovereigns across the continent. That's part of the takeaways to ensure that utilities can be more private sector driven to provide affordable and cost-reflective tariff and electricity to Africans. That's one big story also today. Botswana's economy is forecast to grow about 3 to 4% this year, and while Trump's moves on trade, tariffs, and all of that is like to cause inflation for South Africa. That's according to the CEO of First Round, speaking over the last few days. Let's sum it up in North Africa, and I'm sure you know that Morocco is one of the destinations of the continent when it comes to solar energy, north of the continent. So we're going to speak more to the energy finance, energy investment, energy infrastructure, and how it all links up with industrialization this week. The bank's liquidity deficit in Morocco, one of the biggest economy in that region, down 8.26% last month. That's according to the latest data, while Egypt says it's done about $2 billion syndicated loan to rev up the country's economic growth. Egypt also doing solar, gas, some of the clean energy that has been keenly talked about here and been discussed, how to find further investment, the bankability of some of these projects for the African continent, north, east, south, west, and central. And that's sum it up for today for your special edition of Frontier Opening Bell out of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. I am Busi Nomofaye. I'll back tomorrow to find the second day of the Mission 300 African Energy Summit. Bye for now.